Okay, well, I will go through with the presentation, and if somebody can read anything on the chat, let me know. That would be terrific. So anyway, so this is an overview, Bloom Lake Flats, as of October. So as some of you probably know, we have a 42 unit affordable supportive housing building. It will have 17 studios, 10 one bedrooms, 11 two bedrooms, and 4 3-bedroom units. Clare Housing, we're excited to partner with as a service provider, and they'll be serving people living with HIV and AIDS, and all units will have rental assistance, and they'll be affordable to people either below 30% or below 50% of area median income. So we are located along 16th here with the family partnership right at the corner of Bloomington and Lake, and then us facing 16th and sharing a surface parking lot behind the building that is under construction by the family partnership. I know the curb has been poured. I'm not sure if the asphalt has been laid yet. But that will be done.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks it will be.
Couple weeks, okay. So the parking lot will be all done before we start, and our contractor will do their best to not touch it. Let's see, total cost, we're about $15 million dollars overall, about $357. I think by the time we're done, we might be about $360,000 per unit. We're about 95% funded right now. We have housing infrastructure bonds from Minnesota Housing, which are very important. If you ever see them talk about more bonds for housing at the legislature, this is what it funds. We also have funds from the city of Minneapolis, Hennepin County, Met Council, and then we do have some remaining gap funding. We're requesting from Minnesota Housing. That's about 850,000 or so. Right now we're anticipating that our construction will start in March of 2021 with deconstruction and demo, and then really break ground on hard construction in April. We are gonna partner with Better Futures to do the deconstruction work of the 2 duplexes on 16th, so that we will be able to reuse some of the structural wood in our lobby area. So Better Futures also, it provides work for men who have left incarceration. So we also think it's great to work with a program that's just doing well and doing good at the same time. So a little bit about the building. It's going to be kind of mostly tan brick and some metal panels. And we'll have enclosed bike parking, a 50 kilowatt solar system, and we're also excited to have a community room with a commercial kitchen that will be kind of along this northern side, adjacent to our green space here. We do have a fairly large green space that we are excited to be able to have, especially should we be in the COVID era still when we open. At least there will be a good place to gather outside. And even when nice days post-COVID, hopefully we can all gather and then go back inside safely. But we will have some play equipment, patio grills, and community garden space up here. In this southwest corner, we are going to have a small dog park area. I realize my pretty colored illustration doesn't show it well because we did change this since we last had the renderings updated. But it's going to be kind of a smallish area for dogs that will allow them to kind of not go and do their business on our community green space. And it also provides some activation to that corner, because a good use always helps not have any bad uses. We are going to put in a stormwater reuse system as well to be able to reuse our stormwater for irrigation. So we're excited about that too. Let's see. Next, so We are going to have some space for kind of a mosaic and mural near the front entrance up front here, also adjacent to our back entrance, and then along the north wall that will face our green space. So we do want to have an artist-led community process, and we're currently seeking an artist, so we're not quite sure what that process looks like yet. But we are hoping that it will be something where we will be able to have kind of further community discussion about what would really make sense, and then also, what would contribute to kind of a good trauma-informed design as well that can help the residents heal from any kind of past trauma that they've experienced in their lives. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Phoebe and Michelle to talk a little bit more about Clare Housing.
Phoebe, would you like me to start? Okay.
That sounds great. Yep.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Well, Clare Housing, we have been around for about 32 years. We started back in 1987 to provide end-of-life care to folks dying of AIDS, really, and did that for many years, and in the most compassionate, person-centered way we knew how to give those culturally appropriate services. A shift started to occur in HIV treatments in the mid-90s, and the face of HIV changed, and the housing needs really changed from end-stage care, places that would give compassionate end-of-life care, to really more forward-looking, affordable housing with services, because folks with HIV were living longer lives and healthier lives, especially if they could get on their HIV medications. Clare Housing started to then develop supportive housing projects. Our first one in 2005, called the Clare Apartments in Northeast Minneapolis. And we have another, our largest project to date is right in your neighborhood there, a little bit closer to the Midtown area, 3105 23rd Avenue. We call it Clare Midtown. And so our goal with these projects is to provide affordable housing to low-income people living with HIV, and also really specific wraparound services that include supportive housing, supportive services, sometimes nursing services. This building will have nursing services, family services, if that's appropriate, which also will be appropriate in this building. And once getting folks in, we work to get behind them with whatever their goals are. Quite a few of our folks are also living not only with HIV, but sometimes are coming from a history of homelessness, sometimes are struggling with an addiction or mental illness. And so we're very accustomed to kind of working with all of those various issues, and assisting people to live their very best lives. We believe in creating healing communities. It's right in our mission. So we work really hard to help folks stabilize in their housing once they move in, and start to address any issues that they're ready to address. It might be getting on their medications. It might be reducing their drug or alcohol use. It might be getting a job. And so we will have social workers in the building. We will also have 24/7 front desk in the building, which provides a lot of structure and stability to folks coming in and out. Harm reduction and housing first, those are our models. What housing first is the awareness that what a homeless person needs most is housing. We have to give them the housing first. And not everyone living at Bloom Lake Flats will be coming from a background of homelessness, but some of them will. And so we want to get them right into housing, and then get to know them, get to know what their barriers, their issues might be, and address those as well and as comprehensive as we can. We love to partner with other agencies. We're super excited that the Family Partnership is like kitty corner across the parking lot. So we're already in conversation with them on how to best support our families that will be living there. We're really experts at helping folks manage their HIV disease, and talk openly with people about how to do that, so that they can hopefully manage their disease, become undetectable with the virus, and that prevents them from spreading it ever to another person. And that's the magic of these HIV meds work so well in helping folks manage the disease. We are all about really celebrating our clients and helping them live their best lives. We have equity focused on our slide. Absolutely. We've for 32 years served very vulnerable, sort of disenfranchised folks. LGBTQ folks, for sure. Probably 70% of our residents identify as a sexual minority. We also serve more than 50% of our folks are persons of color, and we're incredibly committed to serving that population well and empowering folks of color as best we can. And I just want to say we want to be good neighbors. We want to be in the community. Faith mentioned that there's a community room in this building. We love opening up those community rooms, as does PPL, to the neighborhood. If there's a PTA meeting or a support group or a community neighborhood meeting, we would love to open that space to our new neighbors. So all of our residents who move in with us, they go through a housing institute sort of to learn how to be a good neighbor, live in an apartment building in a peaceful way. On the slide there, it says we have a proactive relationship with property management. So PPL is building this building, and they'll be the property managers, making sure that rules are followed and rent is collected and maintenance is done. And then services, what Claire will do is meet with property management once a week. The key players come together, and we make sure that, you know, if everything from maintenance, if, you know, there's somebody's toilet has a leak, that we're dealing with that, but also if there's a client who has not paid rent in a couple months, okay, services needs to know about that. We need to help that person tackle that problem. So we'll work really, really closely with property management. It sort of becomes the same, two sides of the same team. That front desk, that 24/7 front desk, I cannot say enough about how much that helps stabilize a building and keeps it running smoothly. I will say that from working in our buildings where we have that 24-hour presence and supervision, to visiting other affordable housing units that maybe don't have that 24/7 front desk, we are just able to manage, respond to, and sort of control tenant issues that a development without on-site services just can't manage. So for example, everyone who is a guest who comes into our building, a friend of a resident, they need to check in at the front desk, they need to turn in their ID, we need to know who they are. It's a very controlled situation, which really helps us minimize any issues. If there is an issue in the building, if we need to call 911 due to a medical issue or another issue, staff are right there. They do it as soon as possible. And when and if those authorities arrive, you know, we help to make sure the issue gets addressed really quickly. So I think with the 24/7, that is just, I can't emphasize it enough with how important that is in running a building really smoothly. So definitely wanted to talk about that. And then I'm looking again at the community room, the green space. We want to be good neighbors. We believe in beautiful housing. We believe that low-income people still deserve to live in beautiful spaces, and we want to have that kind of building in Bloom Lane Flats.
I'll jump in just really quick about the diagram you're seeing, and Faith has the a little mouse probably that you can move around. So the picture that you're seeing on the bottom right, which is the desk, is right below, right there. Yep. So that is the 24/7 desk we're talking about. It sits right inside that vestibule, and that's how tenants enter, either through that door or from the other side, where again we have full sight lines to the entryways. So everyone coming in is saying hi to our staff at the desk. Right now, actually, everyone's getting their temperature taken by the person at the desk. but let's hope that's not still happening. And so that vestibule is facing 16th. And then we're really excited about the kitchen, which was mentioned will be a commercial kitchen, which we have historically worked closely with all of the neighborhoods where we have properties, so that groups can come in, use the kitchen, use the community room, which is right next to the kitchen. And then that goes out onto that green space that you're seeing in the picture above. So with COVID, we've put a pause on outside visitors, so we aren't using the community room in that way and our other buildings. However, we're very excited to go back to that model once we have less risk for COVID. And that has looked like, we could have AA groups, we could have birthday parties. There's all kinds of different things that we want to make that available for. So I just wanted to jump in on that.
Another thing, Phoebe, you get me thinking about, and again, with COVID, we've had to put a pause on some of it, but for both PPL and Clare Housing, just how much we value volunteer services and volunteerism. And in all of our buildings, we do try to recruit volunteers from the neighborhood or the neighborhood groups or communities to come on in and get to know our residents and maybe cook a meal, maybe run an activity. Maybe not gardening, we do gardening volunteers in our homes, but just ways to reach out to the community so that the neighborhood who's interested in being a part of the mission can do that. So we just love that sort of relationship with the neighborhood.
And I forgot one other thing. This is good, we're tag teaming. Down, I want to say south on the building is our nursing area. And so when we talk about nursing services, it's so crucial to the tenant health. I mean, everyone coming in, we're really focused on the health of our tenants. So our nurse is actually working from this office. There's an exam room there, medication obviously to help people maintain control over HIV and any other health conditions they might have. So this acts as a very active nursing station throughout the day. We have 24/7 on-call nursing in the evening as well. So I just wanted to point out that space is there because it's used all day.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't remember, there's one more
slides,
slide.
guys. I think that's our slides for the moment for Claire.
One second, let me see.
Site at any given time. I see a question that came in. Do you want me to answer it about how many staff might be on site at any given time? That's a great question. I would say during the day, so from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.-ish, we would probably have 3 or 4 staff persons on site. That would be the front desk worker, that we call them resident assistants. There'd be at least 1 resident assistant. There'd possibly be a second resident assistant doing laundry and housekeeping and some personal cares. There would be a RN there Monday through Friday, also on site during the day. And then actually 2 higher level social workers. So that's 5, probably 5 staff people during the day. And then 6 o'clock-ish, some of those folks start to go home. We sometimes double staff in the evenings with 2 RAs. And then the wee hours of the morning, we're down to 1 staff person. And Faith, I think you're going to talk about like cameras and some of those things that help us sort of see around and outside the building, even when we just have 1 staff member there. But during the day, during the week, is our heaviest time with services and staff, and that would be about 5 people. Phoebe and I will be stopping in to make sure everybody's doing their job too, so that's 7. I'm kidding. Yeah, typically it'd be 5 during the day.
I'll add just a quick comment on cameras. Right now we're planning for at least 40, potentially up to 50 or 60 if needed. So we will have camera coverage both inside and outside of the building. And so typically for our outside, we've had kind of a fisheye that gives us kind of 180-degree angle view of what's happening outside, particularly around the doors. And I think we'll probably have some kind of by the dog park area and some parking lot coverage. And then also having something that's kind of zoomed in at the door so we can see the faces of who's coming and going. So this is definitely a site that we're being fairly proactive about the quantity of cameras that we're installing.
I forgot to mention, I talked about, address the staff question, and what my answer was with Clare Housing staff. We'd also have PPL staff there, a property manager, a person like Veronica, there at the building at least half-time, maybe three-quarter time, Faith?
Yeah. I think it's, we'll have like a full-time person during lease up and then half-time kind of throughout.
Yep.
But that, kind of may depend a little bit on need as well.
Yep.
We'll also have like a, part-time maintenance person that'll be coming in, or part of a maintenance person's time of somebody who'll be coming in to fix things on a regular basis too.
Mm-hmm.
Molly, perhaps I can turn it over to you and you can talk a little bit about that beautiful background behind you and how your building is doing. Oh, and you're on mute.
Yes, I am. Story of my life. It's hard to mute me, so this is a good thing, technology. Well, I just want to share a little bit about where we're at, particularly the folks on the phone. Most of them have been pretty involved with the project to date, which has been great. I know a lot of 16th Avenue folks are on the call. And if I can share the screen.
Okay, I will.
Who can let me share the screen if I figure it out?
Okay, I can. Now I need to stop sharing. Can you share yet, or do I have to?
I think I can. I think
Okay.
I can. Okay. I have all the. I'm looking for the PowerPoint, and I don't see the PowerPoint, so I think I have to share. See if this works. Bear with me a little bit. It's not. I'm selecting a window. Oh, now can you see my screen? Like a whole bunch of junk. And now do you see? All right, yay. So, and this photo, I have to tell you, Paul Johnson with NTH, he is a man with a drone, and a man with a drone has to have something to do with it. So he's been our official photographer and videographer and all sorts of cool stuff. And every week he comes by and takes photos. So it's kind of a fun way to see it. And this was from last Friday. So it just gives you a different view that you wouldn't get from walking by, and a wonderful skyline in the background. So, and Paul made a few comments, so I may be redundant, but we are, as of today, about 60% completed with our construction, which is sort of a miracle in some ways, it feels like to me. So I think pretty soon there's a lot more going on interior-wise that you won't see, but the exterior is getting very close to being finished. And just as a reminder, I'll just tell you a little bit where my cursor is. If you can see that on the second floor, that is the Pride. That's where the Pride program will be, which is our anti-sex trafficking program. This one-story piece is Four Directions Family Center, our therapeutic preschool, which is a multicultural preschool, and in partnership with Wachoe Nandaki Kagan offers Ojibwe and Dakota language immersion to preschoolers. What you can't see here is sort of the behavioral health services, which are facing Bloomington, and our executive offices, which are facing Lake on the second floor. We also have a lot of community spaces as well. But as Paul said, I mean, right now, the sidewalks are nearly finished. very excited about getting the parking lot finished primarily right now so the construction workers can park there. I know that 16th Street is like really backed up with cars right now because I go over there and I can't find a place to park, and I go over on the other side of Lake Street and stuff. So that'll make a big difference, and I just want to appreciate neighbors and neighboring businesses for their patience on that. I did this presentation for our board last night, and I forgot to say, Paul, what's really exciting about this to me is the landscaping, that we're actually getting plants in there. And I know Robin is very interested in plants, and now I think we're getting to a place of being able to talk more about it. This is the parking lot and the landscaping around the parking lot. There's more on the playground side and that kind of thing. So this is Lake Street. This is actually a little older, from mid-September, and things are changing so regularly. But this is where I want to talk about making lemonade out of lemons. So if you see right here, all the boards that I'm sure many of you have passed day after day, which have been getting increasingly tagged with not as nice graffiti as some of the stuff that we've had on Lake Street. David Mortensen, who's the CEO of Mortensen Construction, our construction company, was over there the other day for a community event, and he drove down Lake Street and he saw this, and he said to his project manager, Sydney Whitmire, who's been amazing, oh, we need to do something about this. And you know, when the CEO says we need to do, they do something. So we had been working, we're working on trying to find muralists for our mural, which will actually be behind this tree. We've been talking to an amazing group, City Mischief. And if you don't know who they are, it's a primarily Native and BIPOC collective of muralists. And when Mortensen, they wanted something done, we connected with them, and they made it happen. On Friday, all the boards were painted white. And this is like Saturday morning in the morning. This is, I think, the next day in the morning, because I kept going over there and stuff, because it was so exciting to see how this developed. And sorry, there's a phone going off in the background. You know, we've been talking about kind of the family partnership and our values and stuff like that. And so they really took that and made this great vision. This is, my faces are in there. So this is the way it was in the afternoon. And now if you go by there, these are the artists, a whole group of artists. You can't see I can't remember his name, but a beautiful 4-year-old who was there most of the time. And this is on the east-facing wall, which is now my background and however that works, which I'm very proud of having the technical capacity to do that. So I hope you guys will drive, walk, bike by it. And now our next big challenge is how are we gonna do something with the boards? They're so beautiful. And we will need a temporary something on this wall space behind there. This, in fact, is the mural space, because as soon as these boards come off, there's a big white wall inviting people to come and put stuff on it, and probably stuff that we don't want. So that is our next big challenge. I would say the other thing that I am working on as part of the project is the Fairview Clinic space, which I think most of you know. Somewhat of a surprise that Fairview, after having gone virtual in COVID, has now informed us in April that they were not returning. And if you saw the paper this morning, they actually are closing, sadly, a multitude of clinics. So we are working very hard to find a tenant for that space that fits with, hopefully enhances what we do and certainly doesn't detract, and also, you know, fits with the neighborhood and enhances the neighborhood, not detracts from the neighborhood. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm going to put a few things in the chat box. That's my email in case you need to reach me. And then I already put the link to the Mortensen newsletter. I'm going to put a copy of where you can get on the Family Partnership regular newsletter. And then we actually did a virtual tour for our capital campaign donors earlier in September, and it's on YouTube. And I'd love for you guys to see it because it just shows a lot of the project, a lot of the progress, and you can be a part of that. So happy to answer questions.
So I guess with that, are there any other questions that we haven't answered? I know we got a few along the way, but I just want to make sure that we're answering whatever come to us mind. Shirley.
Yes. How far does it extend the building from PPL to 31st? Are there on 16th or the even side? Are there going to be any of those existing houses left, or are they all coming down?
No, there's 3 existing houses that will be between 31st and the PPL building. So, and as part of what we bought from the Family Partnership, it did include 2 duplexes kind of just south of the existing parking lot that will be deconstructed in order to accommodate our building.
To accommodate your building?
Yeah, those were duplexes that were held by the land bank for the purpose of this project in the future.
Did you ever think of moving them?
They're not in good enough condition to move, unfortunately. They're from about 1890, and they were originally built as single family homes and converted into duplexes in the 50s. And you know, they're not in terrible condition, but the cost of moving them is, you know, probably would outweigh the cost of building new, basically. So decided to go with deconstruction as the most environmentally sustainable option that we could think of, so at least we can reuse part of the building parts.
And Faith, the other thing that I learned working with you all in terms of this project, and when we took the duplexes down on Bloomington, was you know, the partnership with relocation services. And so a lot of attention is given to the folks in those duplexes and helping them relocate. And as of even this year, I think there's a certain amount of time required, which has expired, but I got a call from the relocation services that one of the gentlemen who his hope was he really wanted to purchase a mobile home. And in the meantime, he went to live with, I think, with his daughter. And so the relocation service called me and said, you know, he's found a place now. The time has expired. You know, what do you want us to do? And so, you know, I said, yeah, we need to extend the time. So I've been just so impressed with how PPL handles the relocation and helping people hopefully get better housing circumstances than they had before.
I'm just asking because I ran a business like that for Midtown Phillips. It was one Phillips neighborhood. And before that, the neighborhood itself did it. And eventually it ended up being in the one of the resource, why should I forget the name of the company that now sells used wood and stuff over across the Hiawatha?
The reuse center? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I was the founder, and Annie Young I didn't work at that one, but we moved over 100 homes. And it was because the neighborhood people insisted, but we had help from a mover in Osseo that didn't charge. And the neighbors did the flag work, you know, when they were moving. And I had a salvage company that we deconstructed homes that did get torn down, sold right on site. And it was Honeywell houses, and Honeywell and Alina paid for that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
I will say,
I was by there the other day. The bus it was detouring around there. And I thought, well, those are really nice homes. All the ones by the post office in Bloomington are gone too, are going?
The ones by the post office are gone.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I want to jump to a couple of other questions that we got as well. One was how many families or people will be living in the building? So I'll say we have 42 units total, and of those, 15 are family units. So those are going to be, I'd say 11 of them are 2 bedrooms. So those will probably have 2 or 3 people in them, depending. I'd say typically a single mom with a kid or 2. And then we'll have 4 3 bedrooms that will probably have 2, 3, 4 kids. So I haven't done the math exactly on that, but I'd venture to guess we'll probably have about 60 some people living here.
Mm-hmm.
There was another question about the building being 4 stories. So we did our architect did look at it as just being a straight 3-story building. But then we wouldn't have had any room for green space. We would have only had like a tiny playground area where the dog park is proposed to be located. And so we realized that that wasn't really going to be adequate for the kind of community green space we wanted to have. We probably wouldn't even meet our minimum kind of required size in terms of a playground. So our architect said, well, you need to be at 4 stories. And we did, our earlier design did have kind of the 4-story step back. But then when we got into the discussions around budget, and our contractor told us that you cannot afford to do that and build this project, because it basically results in the one hallway just being single loaded instead of double loaded, and so you have a lot more exterior per unit. And so that was something where, you know, to just keep our costs reasonable, we're basically going straight up with 4 stories. Although the 4-story is a little bit set back on the southern side. So that's kind of one of those things where we're forced into our design basically by cost. And I do want to address the issue of parking for the residents of Clare Housing. So we do have 19 spaces. Maybe I'll pull up our site plan here and share this again. So we do have 19 spaces that are going to be for the Bloom Lake Flats building. And so some of those will be, you know, for staff, some for residents. Although I know there's going to be a number of residents, particularly those coming from homelessness, who won't own cars. So Michelle, maybe you could talk a little bit about your experiences in other buildings.
Yeah, I would say around 10, but only about 10% of our residents own a vehicle. So what would that be? Maybe 4 or 5 of our residents will have cars. So not a real large group of folks.
Yeah, I just thought I'd put up our current site plan here that shows kind of the line of parking that's along our building. So
I have another question. What about rooftop patios?
Rooftop patios, so that is another thing, rather expensive, not covered under the budgets of affordable housing, unfortunately, but we do have the outdoor green space that I think will be a shared amenity for all. And our architect did look at adding a kind of a very, very small little corner of a green roof, kind of in this back corner here, where it's just going to be one story over our wellness room. Although that may have to come out for some rooftop mechanical equipment. So I haven't heard the latest word on whether or not we'll be able to keep that or not.
I was just looking at the view from the drone from the sky. That is such a beautiful in the evening. Or watch the sun come up or the sunset. Seeing down.
I think that's our building you're talking about, Shirley. And
oh, that's right.
We also had hoped for some rooftop things that we were not able to fit in the budget, along with other things we were not able to fit in the budget. But what we will have is solar panels.
Well, that's
so
good.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, because that saves you a lot of money, really a lot. What about the building that Fairview vacated? What kind of businesses do you want in there?
Well, you know, it actually, you know, it would be a perfect place for some kind of clinic, the right kind of clinic, because that's what it is now. And that would fit with, you know, our health and wellness kind of thing. That would also, you know, sort of, I had a conversation with a yoga entity that was interested. First and foremost, we want someone who can afford the rent. I'm sorry to sound so practical, and I'm not usually practical, but we, you know, having been sort of surprised by Fairview, that long-term lease that they had was part of our financial package of the whole project. So we definitely need someone who can afford the rent. I would love to have an entity that was open later in the evenings and hopefully on weekends if possible. Certainly, you know, something that does not, to be honest, an example of one interest that came through Fairview was a out-of-state for-profit opioid clinic. And I felt that probably was not something that the neighborhood would feel good about having on the corner of Bloomington and Lake. And some of the business owners that I spoke with in the neighborhood heartily concurred with that. So, you know, Paul, I don't know if you have any more from your experience. I know you're not the real estate guy in NTH, but you certainly have worked with all of that.
Yeah, and you know, I think given the size of the facility, there may be some, or the size of the available space, I should say, that there may be some interest around food service or restaurant, and I would say that might be a little bit problematic given the requirements for exhaust and kitchen equipment. Would be hard to retrofit that space. So like Molly said, I think it really lends itself to either some sort of clinic or some sort of professional services use as opposed to a heavy retail or anything else like that. You know, it's just, it wants to be kind of what it is now, which is a clinic space.
It's 5,000 square feet, so it's actually not that large in that respect as well. So
I was in there before when it was a clinic.
That's right. You said, yep.
And it was divided up into smaller businesses. I was thinking more like dance studios.
Yeah, I mean, if that, you know, again, that would be great. That kind of dance, yoga, you know, if there was any sort of, I don't know, arts kind of, I keep thinking about the neighborhood and kind of, you know, it's such a great corridor, and we certainly have we do have a lot of restaurants up and down Lake Street now, and many of them are struggling. So to be honest, I never thought that we would probably want to bring something in that is just going to compete with great restaurants that are already struggling. Why would we do that?
Yeah, I do think studio space or even maker space would be a great use of that location.
What was the second word you said? Makerspace?
Yeah, maker space, you know, small artisans that are, you know, making
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
Yep.
Because kitty corner from there is the Somali Museum and Dance Studio.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's not, it would kind of fit. I thought
Right.
maybe a one takeout restaurant there, because I know some people there that are on 16th that are trying to figure out where they want to put a cafe. They have a truck now.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't rule it out, but I think it would be
The build out is very expensive.
probably, yes, cost prohibitive is what I would say. And our thought with it all along was that, you know, it's potentially expansion space for us. But we're not, we actually, that could be quite a while. I mean, particularly with what with COVID and all of the economic, excuse my French, crap that's going on. It probably be a while before we are in an expansion mode. You know, it could be another the other kind of nonprofit that I thought was perhaps some sort of employment. I'm trying to think of all the things, you know, that we do with and what we know about the families that we serve and things that could support that and be a positive benefit to the neighborhood. One of the things that I'm so excited about this project and that I think is important for the project and for the partnership is, I mean, as I think most people on the call know, I've lived in the neighborhood for a long time. And so, you know, all the decisions that I make, they're made with the back of my mind going, what happens when I see someone at the Mercado or at a PP and Amy or all that kind of stuff? I have to be able to hold my head up. And so when Phoebe was announced as the exec of Clare Housing, Phoebe also grew up in the larger neighborhood and is from the neighborhood. And some of you know her sister who used to live on 31st and 16th. So she too has the burden and the blessing of being in the neighborhood and feeling strongly accountable.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Molly. I am a South High grad, so yeah, I'm very familiar. And I feel like I've watched a lot of May Day parades sitting in front of that post office. That is anyway. But yeah, I know Clare Housing was involved before I got here, but we are super excited to be a part of the neighborhood. And Michelle can attest to that too. And I know she mentioned this earlier, but definitely if you're interested, our Midtown building is really close to you all, right off of Lake Street. And I forget the cross street, Michelle knows.
Yeah, it's 31st Street and 23rd Avenue. So yeah. It's a corner building, and that building has 45 units. So it may kind of have a similar feel to what we're building here with Bloom Lake Flats. But please feel free to drive by or, you know, check it out. It's 3105 23rd Avenue South. And it'd be fun to have another building in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump to another question that we got in the chat here. It was how will 16th Avenue be affected during the construction process, and what is the timeline? So our timeline is 1 year, so March 1st to March 1st. I will say 16th Avenue, we are planning to rebuild the sidewalk there and re-pour the curb line. We are going to extend the curb out a little bit into 16th so that we'll be able to have some boulevard trees in front of our building, which aren't currently there now. And for those of you who've walked that section of 16th, probably far more than I have, there's a lot of curb cuts. The sidewalk is uneven. The asphalt from the parking lot was poured onto the sidewalk. So after we started really taking a look at that, we went, yeah, there's no way you can fix this mess. It's just too much of a mess. So we are going to take that out. And basically re-pour the curb. We'll get everything nice and flat. So it meets ADA standards, and we'll pour brand new sidewalk and put in some street trees and a proper boulevard. So I'm guessing that we will need to close out 16th for, I'm gonna venture to guess, at least 6 months, probably longer. Probably something similar to what the Family Partnership has had to do for Bloomington. We do have more of a setback than the Family Partnership does, where we are set back 15 feet from the street. However, there will need to be some work that happens just in terms of the kind of construction staging and stuff. So we may need to do kind of the sidewalk onto the street, and we just restrict parking for that section in front of our building. This is what I'm anticipating we're going to do. I haven't actually talked with our contractor yet about kind of the detailed construction staging, but we'll have that conversation with them, and I'm happy to kind of come back to you and just let you know what we're planning to do in more detail once we have those pieces figured out. Let's see, I'm going to try to read this question and then answer it. Kind of the traffic between the planned apartment building and the existing homes, and then the current construction of the new driveway by the post office. And I guess they kind of, a lot of it, okay, there's a lot of activity between our house immediately next to the apartments and duplexes and our house, and like to know the plans to mitigate the traffic. So
hi, can you hear
go
me?
ahead. I'm
okay,
not quite
sorry.
sure. That's okay.
I'm on my cell phone, so I was trying to type, and so we're the house immediately next that will be immediately next to the apartment complex, and right now with the Mortensen construction on the other side by Bloomington, and the construction of the driveway by the post office, there's been a lot of traffic of people with bikes and just walking in between our house and the duplexes. And so I'm just curious, I know there was mention earlier about cameras along the buildings and entrances, but there's been a lot of, even last night, I think there were a lot of folks like kind of in front of our house, just in between, because of that walkway. And so I'm just interested in what the plans are for thinking about, mitigating that traffic that's happening right now in between the homes and the apartment building and the construction. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does. So it sounds like you're just having a lot of people kind of between you and the duplexes. And so when the Family Partnership Project, when they're done with construction, then they should be done about February, and then we'll start in March. And so we'll actually be putting up a construction fence that is around those two duplexes. And we can work with you to kind of figure out exactly the location of that. But I think we can probably figure out a way to have a construction fence put up so that there isn't that cut through anymore.
Yes, that is super helpful.
Perhaps you'd like some plywood beautiful murals to be part of that.
We would love a mural. Yeah, I mean, and we want to be as cooperative as possible. I think we're really excited about the apartment building going up in our community, and we love the block that we live on, and we love the community that we're in, and we also want to make sure that that we're keeping the community safe as well. And so that was my only question, really.
Great.
Yeah, no, I think we're happy to try to make sure that there isn't a cut through there. So,
And I just have to say thank you to all the neighbors on 16th, and that I know, I mean, you guys have been so gracious and helpful, and even, like when there's concerns and complaints, it's always in a really positive spirit, which is really nice. I just really appreciate it. And I also, I know, like, this summer has been really tough, and actually right now it's a really, every time I walk over there a lot to see what's going on with the construction, and there's just, there are so many people who do not live on that block who are on that block, and we, with Anna Bloomstrand and others, are really pushing our elected officials and public officials to, help all of us. And, we all know it's hard time, but I want you to know that we know that we're doing everything that we think we can. If there's other things that you think might help, we want to know.
No, I appreciate that. That's really,
together.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think we want to be as inclusive as possible, and we want to be as welcoming as possible. And we just want to do everything that we can to support our block and our community. So thank you. And I appreciate being able to attend this meeting tonight.
Yeah, as a resident on 18th, I'm really have been looking forward to, for a long time now, with the planning meetings that were held, a couple of years ago for, updates on that. Looking forward to having more neighbors that have influence and that will have presence to help, as you had said, just the folks that don't actually live here that we're coexisting with, and just helping to, get those people resources, just be cooperative neighbors. Cameras are one thing, fences are another, lighting is one thing, but really having more of a proactive, I've always just thought, especially, just in experiencing what was going on here during the uprising, presence, physical presence, and coming together as neighbors is really what kind of like feels the best and makes the most difference. So just looking forward to having more folks like that on the street. So thank you.
That just reminded me, if anyone's interested, we just finished making a really short clip about our Midtown building, actually, that I'll share in the message. During the uprising, we did have to pull people out of the building because of the smoke and things, and this just kind of highlights our property, our SSM is what we call them, but our support services manager at that building, because I think it shows like how our heart is in the places that we are. I mean, that's why we're so excited to be a part of such a vibrant block, and you all have like the most unique block I've ever met. And so anyway, I'm gonna post it if you're interested.
Great.
I guess I'd like to pose a question for some of our neighbors, I guess, in terms of, frequency of communication. I will say I feel bad that I think I remember I was trying to schedule this meeting originally in sometime in late April. And the last email I remember receiving in mid-March was from Kit at the Family Partnership, who said, yes, I know we just picked a date, then we worked really hard doing that. However, due to COVID, we might all be working from home, and I don't know we can do an in-person meeting. That was the last email I remember. And I was like, oh, might change my life a lot. And then it did. So we looked at April, and then kind of in late May, we were going to pick another date. And then all of a sudden, with the, murder of Mr. Floyd and everything that happened along Lake Street, and we went, okay, this is probably not the best time to like send out a neighborhood meeting invite right after all that happened. So then, it kind of time went by, and then we're like, okay, September. So by the time everybody got our calendars coordinated, it was October. So I just wanted, before we kind of hopefully do not go through another 2020 again, I hope, just in terms of kind of being a little bit better about us communicating kind of, as kind of our projects moving forward, would email help, would kind of, another kind of, just evening meeting like this help, like what, or both, what would be work the best for you guys?
I appreciate you saying that. I felt like I was kind of in the dark about this for a long time, especially since there was so much information from the family partnership at the beginning when they were doing their community meetings and stuff. And I'm like, well, what about that giant building going across the street from my house? Like, how come I haven't heard anything about that? So yeah, I'm super supportive of your mission, but I do still feel like I have like, feelings about this like big building, and thinking about like, well, how long is Clare Housing going to be there? Like, what if you end up selling and it becomes something else, down the road? I just have these questions. And as far as the construction goes, I would love to keep in touch by email. That would be awesome. Like just having, updates. I don't know if you would do like, monthly updates. I'm not sure what makes sense for you guys.
Yeah, I guess, I think we'll maybe can do monthly updates, at least for now, until we get a little bit closer to starting construction. And then once we actually start, we could do kind of the family partnerships model of doing a weekly update. I think our contract would be happy to help do that as well. So I'm in that somehow I am able to either collect email addresses of from the family partnership or from your registration from Zoom. And I haven't tried to do this before, but I'm hoping that they're all, so at least we can build our own email address list. So I think we can start with that. And I will say, in terms of kind of the building ownership as PPL, we plan to be a forever owner. That's how we set up our buildings. I think, Claire, you probably feel the same. We've had a great partnership for years. And so we hope that will continue for decades to come.
And I would just say, I would add, getting Faith, particularly Faith, because I think with construction, Faith is probably kind of the point person, and then after it's probably more Phoebe and Michelle. But I will say that particularly, Ingebrigtsens, both Julie and Anna, if there's an issue like around cleanup or some of the things, they email me. And when they email, I got to do something. So I would encourage all of you to get those emails. And if you haven't heard, and if you just have a question, it's actually kind of nice, because then I know that people are interested in watching. So please assert yourselves as well. And of course, you can all, if it's, you can start with me or whatever. We talk, not enough, but when we can, and around things like this, if there's issues, safety issues and stuff, we've met with Inspector McGinty and Anna and stuff like that, and happy to do those kinds of things. So don't be shy.
Yeah, I'll second that, and I'm putting my email here in the chat too, just because you know, I think I have gotten some kind of random phone calls from our tenants in the duplexes, some of whom have moved out already, but it was just good just to hear from them, and, you know, some of the kind of, you know, safety issues that they've had. They also had a few surprises with the construction process, so we ended up coordinating with Mortensen. But yeah, it's always good to hear what's going on, and then I can do a little bit more to address it if I know, you know, what's happening.
You said that there's weekly updates about the construction currently going on for Family Partnership. Could you link us to that in some way?
I did. Let's see. If you are you on the chat line?
I am. I'm sorry. I missed the first 15 minutes. So if it was at the beginning, I missed it.
Yeah, you should be able to scroll up on the chat function, and I think it is the link. It's my first post at 6:43, and TFP Builds is. I thought it was a hyperlink, but it's not. So it's at www.mortensen.com/ and then it gets to the Family Partnership. That
would you mind just posting that one more time, because
sure.
I did get here late, so I actually can't see anything in the chat before I got
really?
here. Thank you.
Well, I learned something then. Okay. So this is, that's the website, and when you go there, you can also just subscribe, and you'll get the email every week. And I also put our e-news up somewhere in the virtual tour. I'll do that again. Here is, this is just our regular e-news, so it talks more about our programs or what's going on. We love to have people signing up for that. And then a virtual tour from Paul. When was that? Was that end of August? So much has changed since then, but it's kind of fun. And
yeah, it really has. The timing sounds right, Molly. And we'll probably, I'm gonna put myself on the spot here, but we'll probably be doing, I would imagine, another one, you know, in a month or so, as the interior is really changing daily.
Yes, you're not putting yourself on this. You love doing this. I know you do. Let's see if I can get that up. All right. I think that's it. And I don't know when you got on, Allison, if you got my email or not, but it's mgreenman@thefamilypartnership.org.
Yes, are there any other questions, or have we answered everything that's come to mind?
Well, it's so exciting. I can't wait to get in the building, and I hope I can get in the building, that we will be able to go back to the building. It's very strange, but I'm looking forward to walking to work, or at least not driving very far. So.
And we'd love to figure out a way to use those boards, Molly.
Great. We'll talk more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will bring that up on our next design meeting, that we have some boards we'll need to store and reuse. So I'm excited for that too.
Right.
Okay, well, we will do our best to keep up our communication as we go, and have two monthly updates for November and December. And then maybe we could do one more meeting before we start construction, and then just to kind of talk through things again, see who else might want to join. And then hopefully we can start with weekly construction updates come March, which would be very exciting. So And yes, feel free
Okay.
to reach out to me with questions or suggestions or anything else that you didn't think of in our little conversation this evening. So, but thank you all for sharing your time with us and your
Thank you so
feedback.
much.
That really helps us a lot. I hope it's helpful for you too.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
You guys.
So
Good to
yes,
see and
thank
talk
you,
with you.
everyone.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.